Welcome to the Hustle Baby Podcast, where I give entrepreneurs 15 minutes to show, grow, and let the world know about their small business. Today I'm hustling with Jeff Zanella, the creative eye behind JZsPhotos in Medfield. From bold sports portraits to dynamic events and commercial shoots, Jeff brings an artistic edge to every frame. Time to focus on the story behind the lens. And action! Hey everybody, today I'm sitting here with Jeff Zanella. He's a Medfield local and a fantastic photographer. Jeff, welcome to the show, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Thanks for having me. I've been doing photography over 20 years now.
Yeah.
I've been doing it professionally for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
It's always been a side hustle of mine. It's always been a passion of mine. I grew up kind of just naturally being creative, drawing a lot as a kid, wanted to be an architect in my George Costanza days. And, got into graphic design early on, went into marketing and advertising for an actual real job. But always, photography had kind of not yet been something I really delved into until my wife and I actually went on a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
And we were in Tokyo, and I had like a little point and shoot camera.
Yeah.
And I was playing around with that, and those type of cameras, like the flash would always go off.
Yeah.
And I started to wait a minute, I can actually put my finger in front of the flash and actually start controlling the light. And then by doing so, start really getting some really interesting, almost abstract, but some really cool, moody type of shots.
Yeah.
And of course, being in a backdrop like Tokyo, there's a lot of really cool, interesting perspectives to see. And that kind of got my creative juices going, and
interesting.
I got home and I went into to a camera store and bought a DSLR camera.
Yeah. Wow.
And, so
that's pretty cool. So you sort of stumbled upon it. Obviously, you were a creative-minded individual, but that's really interesting to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what my outlet could be.
Yeah.
That it could be something that I could be consistent with.
Yeah.
And really something I just couldn't put down and couldn't stop doing.
And now you're 20 years in.
20 years in.
Yeah.
And so it was like a kind of a side hustle because, I'll be just taking shots for times where we go travel. And that was always fun for me and painful for my wife, who would have to wait for me to kind of catch up back to
Sure.
I'll be, lagging behind taking photos. But my friends started having kids.
Yeah.
And they needed shots of their kids. And I'm like, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
And hey, come over to the house and let's have some fun with it. And they really enjoyed it, and it became something where on the weekends I was shooting 3 to 5 different, family photo shoots and processing them during the week while also doing a full-time job.
Sure.
But I just love doing it. So, the past few years was like, let's shift to this to do this full time.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And actually expand, the type of work that I've been doing, and it's been like joyful for me because it's something I just enjoy doing. And it doesn't feel like work.
And being able to tap into that creative outlet side of things is always good. It's why I do the podcast and why I like the drone for real estate and all that stuff. Why don't you give us an idea? Sort of what is sort of the bread and butter of your business? What do you like to do the most? And that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's because you're always trying to find a niche for which you can kind of market yourself as, in terms of this space. Because, I consider myself a general photographer.
Yeah.
Do pretty much anything, probably just not weddings, in terms of just not ready for that level of scale and anxiety. But I do like work on a more personal level. I love sports photography.
Yeah.
Because, I grew up playing sports. My kids play sports. So this idea of just action sports and that's just super fun for me because it's like actually playing a sport. It's like getting the photo itself. It's not easy. You're in the action. Knowing the game helps you.
Yeah.
Because you know where the puck is going to be going, so it helps you get that shot. But then also too that sort of new mix of epic portraits with athletes and doing some real fun things with dynamic lighting and smoke and fire.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
My wife doesn't love the fact that we do fire, but the kids love it. It makes a great experience.
Yeah.
Everyone has a fun time doing it. You get the kids involved, the siblings involved, the parents get involved.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, helping with some of the actual the smoke techniques and getting them involved in the pyrotechnic aspects of it. So that's a really fun one because it just becomes this unique experience that you're not gonna get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one unique thing is that if you can make it a fun experience for everyone, that's what's going to drive your business.
Well, and it's a lifelong photo. My parents still have a picture of me playing soccer at Dover Sherburne.
Yeah.
An in-action shot throwing the ball over my head. Maybe I'll send it to you and you can incorporate some flames in the back.
We can do some Photoshop. But I think that's the fun part about it is that, especially these days, like we social media, like everyone wants to sort of put out their personal identity.
Sure.
And, especially with sports, it's something that obviously a lot of these kids are super passionate about as well as the parents. So they want that sort of epic photo to go along with what that passion is. And, I grew up on Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, of course.
Being the cover of that. So how do you make these kids feel like they're on the cover of Sports Illustrated for their social media?
Do you have a website where people can sort of see some examples or...
Yeah, www.JZphotography.com.
Okay, cool. And you have some examples on there of like the different stuff that you do and all
the
that.
wide range of what we do. Some of the
and Instagram
highlights.
Too, right?
Instagram as well too.
Yeah.
At JZsPhotos.
Yep.
And link below.
Yeah. I'll make sure to put it in there.
But yeah, like, and I just love it. Each photo shoot's an adventure into itself.
Yeah.
And we try to personalize them to the individual's personalities and try to bring out their personality and everything so that it feels special to them.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Why don't give us, if you can, some of the things that you've encountered as an entrepreneur working for yourself, some of the challenges, some of the difficulties, and maybe, how you were able to overcome them.
Yeah, no, there's tons of challenges. Everything's difficult. I think growing it in just making that leap is the hardest part. Just getting started and committing to it.
Yeah,
and treating it like a full-time job versus a hobby.
Right.
Where hobby was a lot of it didn't feel like a job because you kind of just did it in your spare time, and it was kind of a relief and sort of relaxing sort of takeaway from the natural grind of your everyday job life. But this is a job, and you got to take it seriously, and you got to grind through it. The points where it's not as fun, and the marketing aspect of it too, and just building up a client base. And getting yourself out there. So a lot of that has been just being generous as possible to kind of start your business. You got to be a little bit generous, not to say give away the farm for free.
Yeah, of course.
But
of course,
you're trying to build relationships, and and just putting yourself out there. It's scary. And like, can you do this?
Yeah.
And and making that decision to do what scares you, I think, is the big thing too. Is that going into some of these shoots, you're like, I don't know if I know how to do this, or I don't know these people.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the situation is going to be like, and the lighting going to work, and a lot of it's made up on the fly because depending on the different weather changes and the different scenarios for where you walk into potentially in somebody's house or business, and the space isn't befitting of, and you got to kind of creative problem solve on the fly, and that just makes it fun.
Yeah.
I think that's exciting, but that's the scary part as well too. So.
Yeah, it's I think being in that world, it's always interesting because you never know what you're going to encounter. And a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, he's coming over today to do the drone work." I'm like, "Yeah, but it just started raining." So like you have to be able to kind of adapt on the fly.
Pivot.
And
I had a photo shoot last week where we were supposed to have this big gym. Everything was planned around this idea of 250 kids coming to do a baseball shoot. We're going to do it in a gym. I brought on my backdrop, and at the last second, they realized the gym wasn't booked.
Oh, no.
And it's raining outside. And I'm down in the middle of Fairfield, Connecticut.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like I'm already down here.
Yeah.
And it's like let's just the rain didn't look too bad. We looked at the weather, and we're like, wait, I think we have time here. We can do this outside. And I'm like, let's just go back to the field. Look around. Like, what do we have to work with in terms of backdrop? How can we make this look good?
Yeah.
And there's puddles everywhere. But then like, oh, look, the dugout. And actually in the back of the dugout, it's this perfect, like, situated like corner where like they got this old wood, like sort of helmet, area with bats and places. And it was just awesome old school baseball.
Cool.
And I'm like, we can light this way. So we set everything up, took a couple test shots, and it looked awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was better than what we had initially intended to. So serendipity plays a big role in all this as well too. You just got to roll with it.
Overcoming obstacles. That's pretty cool. And it worked in your favor too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and it worked out for the better. I mean, have a plan. Always have a plan, but always have a plan B and have a plan C, and just be able to be able to just pivot on the fly. Yeah, and be flexible.
I feel like sometimes people get so down on themselves if it's not exactly a certain way, and then they can't adapt. So I think obviously your adaptability proved to be worthwhile there.
It was key, but it's stressful,
Yeah.
and you keep that stress inside. Don't let
Yeah.
your clients see it.
Yeah.
Bottle up inside you, and just put on a happy face, and like we're gonna figure this out.
Act like you've been there before.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to see those photos. I'm sure they're pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'm still working on them.
Yeah.
That's the one thing with this. You start going a little cross-eyed with the amount of
Yeah.
photos you got to post-process, and sometimes you take too many, but that's the whole joy of it. And yeah, 6 hours of shooting, and my legs are still feeling it. So it was like doing like 300 squats.
Wow.
So it was a good workout too. That's the good thing about
Yeah.
this industry as well too. So you get to blend a little bit of physical activity with it.
Of all the shoots that you've done, this is just something I'm curious about. What is like your number one favorite? Because of, I don't know, maybe it was just like really cool scenery. Maybe it showed you something that you'd never sort of experienced before. Just one of your shoots that kind of you put above all the rest.
I mean, they're all fun. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, when I first started getting into it, like with this whole idea of this like epic portraiture, was fun with water. I had seen it done online with another photographer doing it in another type of medium. And I was like, this would be kind of fun for like baseball and sports and soccer. So I had a bunch of friends come over to the house, and we just started testing it out with the kids. And I had some neighbors come by with their kids, and then we just took the hose, to kind of put the water effect in there. I'm like, I talked to one of mom's. I'm like, just spray your kid in the face. like let's just like have some fun, get some aggression out on your kid, and just do that. And I'm like, kid, just start screaming.
Yeah.
And then like 1, 2, 3, let's go.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And like those shots came out awesome.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
That was a really fun one. With the Medfield teams, we're just in the state finals for hockey. Over at the Garden.
Yeah.
So
you were there?
I was there. Yeah. So
Oh,
a
that's
couple
awesome.
of the parents asked me to come. Like, hey, you could take some photos of us. So I was gladly. They set me up with a actual like press pass. So
Yeah. Wow.
And then you could be in and the fun part about being photography is like if you have a camera, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like you can get yourself into any situation you want to. So I had the press pass. There were certain areas in the garden I was not supposed to go to.
Yep.
But because you have a camera, I could walk anywhere I wanted to.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and no one said anything. So I was in the depths of all things Boston Garden on the ice at the end of the game
No
when the
way.
girls had won. That was super fun. Almost like a pinch me moment where I was just started looking up. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like actually on the ice.
That's
in the
incredible.
garden. Yeah, it was really fun. Got to go in the press section upstairs and just basically I had, full,
Free reign.
access to and free reign to the entire
If
Boston
the
Garden.
Boston
Yeah.
Garden only knew.
Yeah, no, it was, and so that was fun. Those are cool. So that made just these like interesting moments that like it brings you into like then versus just sitting at an office at a desk. Like you get to go some interesting places and unexpected ways.
The Garden is pretty epic.
That was really cool. That
that's
was and it'd be cool if it was a Celtics game or Bruins game too.
Yeah.
But hopefully that's next.
All right. Well, listen, I think the sky's the limit for you. Certainly the rafters.
Yes, we'll see.
Well, that's awesome. What do you have any advice for people? One of the things I want to try to kind of get out there is for people that might be starting out looking, or thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Maybe they want to take their side hustle sort of full time. What advice do you have that you could give people that might be kind of like on the fence or maybe don't know where to start or what to do?
Start a podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I would say, embrace social media from a marketing standpoint,
Yeah.
first and foremost. It's free media. It's free marketing. Definitely figure out your niche, figure out, what it is that differentiates you from your competition. Like there's a lot of people probably doing the same thing, but
Yeah.
if you can provide a unique service, and always think about yourself as a service provider.
Yeah.
Just because there's certain jobs that are specific to the hospitality industry, but apply that same level of hospitality to everything that you do and treat every customer like they're special and unique and, provide them with as much of a unique experience as they possibly can. I think that's always key. I remember it was like the Jordan's Furniture guys came and talked to my college at one point when I was in school and I was a marketing class and they said, hey, listen, like there's 2 gas stations. They're both across the street from each other. They both sell the same product. They sell for the exact same price. But what about your gas station just gives away a free rose with every fill up?
Sure.
Just a little something that goes a long way and it just makes you stand out and differentiates you and just shows to the fact that you care to your customers. So that's always a big thing. And then again, do what scares you. I think, there's a lot of fear and trepidation that goes into starting a new business, doing something on your own, especially as an entrepreneurship. You're doing it by yourself for the most part.
Sure.
Or hopefully if you have a business partner as well too, that you're doing it with, but it's scary.
Yeah.
But just commit to it.
Yeah. I think having a plan too, right? I think is important, because I know, sort of some of the trepidation that people feel is, well, how am I going to make money? And so like taking that leap and getting in there, but you got to do it with a plan so that, you kind of know what to expect, or, try to plan for the unexpected if you can, and all that.
Yeah, and plan for growth.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, and have goals.
Yep.
Always have big, goals that are, somewhat push you, but are somewhat attainable. And then, but make sure that at the end of the day, like every other month, and every year you want to be doing something different, or put yourself in the place like at the end of the year you've done something bigger, and then next year you're pushing yourself. So always evolve, and always strive for something more, because you just don't want to become stagnant.
Yep.
That's where, and when you become successful, that's your motivation to keep doing more.
Yeah, of course.
And always feel like you're failing.
Yeah.
To keep you motivated to keep growing.
Well, that means you're a fierce competitor.
Exactly.
That's good. Great advice, and thank you. All right, final question.
Sure.
And that is, what is your, as it relates to your business, what is your sort of business dream and goal? If you had to put like that one thing out in front of you and you could go to that goal, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to be shooting for professional sports at some point.
Okay.
Would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the youth athletes.
Like you want to be
like
the guy on the floor that's like, diving bodies and like fighting over, loose ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just courtside.
Yeah.
Better lighting.
Yeah.
More epic action. And also just working with them off the court as well, too.
Sure.
I see it a lot recently where some of these photographers are doing the same thing, and I look to for inspiration, starting in that sort of youth model. Have now grown to go shoot stuff for ESPN, like during the Final Four. And they're doing stuff with the players off the court.
Yeah,
and doing that sort of like epic sports portraitures with them.
Okay.
And it's just an amazing experience to kind of just, continue to get access to new personalities and new players and new people to work with, and people that you admire and you look up to. So be able to capture, people that I love and see and hold this like sort of celebrity would be fantastic. So that's a cool thing. And also, like get full free reign of Fenway Park and
that's awesome.
and Gillette Stadium. I want it, and then also travel, do more travel photography as well too. Like, and musicians and, like get behind the scenes. So it's like, photography is like a lot of it about just like getting access.
Yeah.
And once you have that access and that trust with your subjects, it can take you to some epic places. So, and as photographers, we're just looking for that next epic backdrop.
Yeah.
And that you put your subject in front of.
Sure.
So of course, like, being on a huge stage at like Coachella, taking shots of, celebrity, big bands and musicians and stuff like that would be awesome as well too. So, for me, it's just more opportunities to shoot more content and not just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And experience all that you have to experience with whatever the opportunity might be.
Yeah. That's the whole beauty of it, is just to continue to evolve.
Yeah. It's like that for real estate too. It's like, I'm always looking for like that next really cool house, or maybe it just happens to be this, it could be any size house, but it's a crazy sunset, or, there's just something that kind of captures that moment. And that's what I keep chasing, So anyway, listen, like-minded individuals.
Love it.
I really appreciate you coming down. Hopefully some of these sports organizations out there are watching, and maybe we get you some business moving forward. That would be great.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
Jeff,
Appreciate
as
it.
always, great to see you. Thank you.
Always a good time.
See you guys.